So, given how closely you've been involved with Batman now, in terms of experience, it's pretty much all Bruce, Tim, and you. Where does Arkham City fit in terms of advancing the Batman myth? What does it add?
What's cool about it is it takes it to a new technology. It's just bringing it into a new, realm. But it's the same story. It's the same myth. It's the same ethos. It's just in a new format. And it's an interactive format with the audience. So it's kind of ideal because this has always been a story that so involves the audience. So I think it's kind of ideally suited to this.
No.
And the graphics in this are phenomenal. Am I getting too excited? You're like on Batman's cape as he's swooshing into, Gotham and stuff. It's phenomenal. And the sound quality.
That brings us to an interesting point. The Rogues Gallery in a game like this is really large, and other than some special issues, some crossovers and stuff like that, generally the comics will focus on a villain or two at a time. Whereas for the meat of the game, you have to bring in a lot more. Did you have to narrow it down? Was there the temptation to throw in everything? How do you approach that?
We start honestly by just writing the story. Because Batman is the world's greatest detective, so we're starting by writing a kind of mystery story that's going to unravel. And we're picking the characters. We're just incredibly fortunate to have this amazing Rogues Gallery. I don't think anyone matches Batman's Rogues Gallery. And we're picking the characters that best test and torment Batman in really interesting ways. So I think it gives us, we are honestly like kids in the candy shop. We just get to pick this tremendous selection of villains, and the other thing is we don't want to put them in just for the sake of it. We want to put them in because they justify their position and role in the game. They've got to say something interesting about Batman. For us as well, Batman's relationship with these villains is kind of what defines him. That other superheroes are, I guess, sometimes about the spectacle, but Batman is very much about the personal. And I think that gives us this opportunity to pick all these different villains who kind of touch him and have this relationship with him in different ways. So that's how we kind of pick. And I think, because of the size of the game, you are going to get a bigger cast of characters, and you are going to get enough time to interact with them properly and see their stories develop. So it's one of the great things about our medium.
So one of the things you said that was really interesting was the mystery and the detective. Sometimes that gets lost, depending on what Batman story is being told. Nick, you're responsible for the whole audio aspect of the game, the sound effects, the Foley, and the music in the game. How do you tie that in, any of those aspects in, to the detective aspect of Batman?
Well, we certainly on the music side, we tie it in, I guess, in the simplest ways, it's a story about Batman. So we don't have hundreds of themes for the music. We have now a Batman theme, which then evolves and changes as the story evolves and changes. Actually, there's a slight difference. We do have a Joker theme, which is just one note different to the Batman theme. And then that's the kind of fight, right? They're very nearly the same. They could have been the same person. So, I think that's the most simple way of embodying it.
And that was something you were deliberately trying to bring out musically, is that, but for a few...
Yeah, well, they're very similar, right? They're the same character in lots of ways, and they need each other. And these two themes, you couldn't have one without the other. So there's a kind of symbiosis between the two, as there is between the actual characters. Likewise, the Catwoman theme is the Batman theme upside down. We keep it unified. It's one thing because it is one story.
And did you know that you were going to approach it like that from the beginning, or did that emerge over time?
No, I planned it that way from the start. Yeah. I planned it when I was 7.
A genius, ladies and gentlemen. Were there any particularly challenging sounds to create for any of the villains? In the comic book, it's a sound bubble, that kind of thing. They have a bit easier compared
It's
to...
harder than that.
What does POW sound like?
I guess the hardest thing was the surveillance audio. So as you fly around, I don't know how much you see, but as you fly around the city, we need to tell this story without stopping Batman moving. So we have this system whereby he's got a surveillance scanner and he can hear and tune into various thugs that are just chatting or explaining the story, their reaction to what's going on in the city as these warring factions compete. Getting that to work was the most challenging thing, I think, by far. Yeah.
It's just getting the balance of, because we wanted to have this open city, but at the same time, we wanted you to hear everything that was going on, to feel what it was like to be Batman, to be plugged in to what everyone was saying, to get hints and tips, feel how the story was evolving because of your action. So, but also there's that danger of information overload. So we spent a lot of time trying to get the balance of those things.
Yeah, there was definitely a point where we were worried we weren't telling the story well enough without stopping the player. And then we probably overdid it, and we're just bombarding the player with so much information. It's very difficult to really understand what was going on and which were the important bits. So then we dialed it backwards.
Can you give us a few hints, Sefton, as to how the characters are integrated into the game, how they pair up, and how much do the storylines sort of mirror things we've seen in the comics, and how much do you go your own way?
I mean, I think they mirror the themes of the comics in the fact that they are about the relationships between these characters, but it is a story written specifically for video games. I mean, because it has its very unique demands, it is a story written specifically for the game. I mean, the characters themselves, because we have this setup of Arkham City, which is basically this walled-off, huge district of Gotham, a maximum security prison. Because we have this setup, we wanted to put these supervillains in there, and sort of kind of the idea that we had is that if you put all these people in one place, what strangers were expecting to happen was this place to fall apart. This place to be completely and utter chaos. What actually happened was a kind of social order formed. For people to survive, they had to join Joker's gang, they had to join Penguin's gang. Two-Face has come in recently, and Two-Face is trying to recruit his gang. And so you've kind of got this dynamic of these people fighting against each other. And as well as that, then you've got people like Zaz in there, a serial killer. What's he doing in Arkham City, and how is that working? And basically, the only person who's really standing in the way of any of these people getting what they want is Batman.
Thank you. So Nick, as a music guy and an audio guy, what's it like to go to work on the Warner Brothers Foley stage?
Oh, it's a real privilege. I mean, everyone we work with there is absolutely at the top of their game. It's Foley recording, or we spend a day recording films on the Warner lot. It's a real honour, and we just go and just envious and steal what we can. Any idea from these guys that have done it for years and years and years.
What were some of the more surprising or unique effects that you can tell us about that you created audio-wise?
Well, I guess certainly the one we spent longest on, sound design-wise, is we call it internally the wachonk, which is when you dive off a building. Officially, it's called the cape glider open. As soon as your cape opens for you to glide, it's a huge wachonk. So that's what we call it.
Everyone, let's all together. Wachonk.
It sounds a bit better than that. Yeah, we spent ages on that because it's such a kind of iconic sound, and actually, visually it's obviously really iconic, as Karen was saying before. It's just so important that it sounded great, and that we didn't overdo it, and that it was more intense if you were chonking off the top of a really high building. Whereas if you would chonk off a chair, you probably don't want to.
I think this is the new planking, ladies and gentlemen. So the thing is, like, how do you? I mean, obviously, this is why you get paid the big bucks. Is like the fine tuning of sounds like these, but like. When you're doing like little micro adjustments here and there, like how did you know when you finally had the right chunk?
I don't know if I do. We try our best. It is literally taken away from you. There isn't a point where you go, I'm perfect. This thing is perfect. It's just at some point we run out of time. We could be working on it forever. we could endlessly tweak those things.
Excellent. So one of the things about this is that Arkham City for this year is the Batman event for the year, and there's a lot of other stuff that's sort of feeding into it and tying off it. It's the movie in previous years. This year is the game. You've got the Arkham City comic book, which tells the story of tells the story of what happened between Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. You've got the action figures from DC Direct. You've got various things from Warner Brothers Consumer Products. The Batman Year One DVD, which comes out the same day as the game. Make sure you get photos.